Hi guys, welcome back to this week's devlog for Joust. I'm now back into actually working on the game after creating these devlogs to catch the series up to what I've already done. This week I wanted to work on the rewards that pop up at the end of the game for the player, as well as creating an audio manager. So my week always starts on a Friday, but this Friday, so it's Saturday, after about 7 PM I finished work for the day and I'm about to get started on the next part of the project. At the moment this UI element here is just a static mockup. I want this to turn into a list where I can just fill it in dynamically if the player unlocks something during gameplay. So it's been a while since I created this grid here. I'm going to need a little bit of a refresh. So I thought it'd be easier to just quickly copy and paste the previous one, but that didn't work and none of the content appeared. So I just had to create it from scratch again. And after about an hour's work of looking at tutorials, I managed to get the list scrolling vertically just like this. For the rest of the night I just stopped work short a little bit just to play Among Us with some friends and put a few pieces together for this video. It's 5 PM on Sunday, now it's time to get into populating this list dynamically. So the first thing I need to do is change these images into buttons because they contain information for you to click on and expand to read more. Like if the player unlocks a new enemy and wants to learn their attack patterns or possibly practice against them, they'll be able to tap on it and a window should pop up. After spending some time coding behind the scenes, I've now implemented a system to instantiate a prefab, which takes a series of information like a little image, information about how much there is or what it is, and the name of the object. The only issue now is that I need more items in the games to fill this rewards, seeing as the only item you can pick up in the game at the moment are coins. So now it's time to explain what I actually have planned to have in the game that the player can pick up. So I'm going to have random crates or boxes that just pop into the game that look a little bit like this, and when you run past them you have the chance to attack them and smash them and rewards will pop out of them. So these crates will drop one of three things randomly, either coins, revival tokens, or power-ups. So the player will be able to pick up revival crosses during their run. This will then go into their inventory. They will not be able to use it in the game when they pick it up. But how it's going to work is you're going to be able to equip revival crosses before you start a run, but this is only if they have some left in their inventory. Once you use it, it's used up. The next item that you'll be able to pick up will be power-ups. These will be like little tokens that you can eventually equip to your different armor slots, which this will give the player the ability to multiply points, invincibility, stronger attacks, and so forth. Once again, they can only be used once, so if the player uses them up or dies during a run, they will be gone. So this system is now in place for when I implement these items at a later date, but the next thing I need to do is actually create a pop-up for when the player unlocks new enemies, which might be something I'll cover in the next week's video. So over the next few days I decided I wanted to work on the smaller pieces that I wanted to implement and fix a few things as well. The first major thing I wanted to fix was this bug where on a small occasion, if you land in the wrong spot on this barrier and you try to revive, the player doesn't jump up, he just carries on sliding across the ground. So I spent almost an hour trying to fix this. I checked that the player's revival range, which means that it detects enemies in its vicinity and moves them to another layer so it doesn't collide and die again. I made that bigger to make sure it was definitely doing that. That didn't fix anything. I made sure that all the correct objects were actually switching layers correctly. I also tried playing around with the mesh of the barricade to see if that would fix anything. The only solution that worked for me was increasing the velocity at which the player jumps up. So I just changed the velocity from 5 to 6. The last major thing I had on my to-do list was to turn off and on the sound in the game by having a mute option in the settings. So I had already created a little chiptune song for the main menu. It was just disabled during the game, mainly because I didn't want to get sick of my own music. So this music that you're hearing now in the background is the one that will actually appear when the player first goes into the game and uses the main menu. I also created two other little sound effects, one that sounds like this, for when the player swings their sword, and this one here, for when the player or the enemy is hit. So I already forgot how I completely implemented the sounds in the first place, so what I did was I decided to go and refresh on what I did. I looked up a quick Brackeys tutorial and how to create an actual audio manager, which I find much more efficient than what I already created. This audio manager that's been created is now prefab, and I can execute any sound file that I've stored in this audio manager from a single line of code on every object, instead of the traditional method of adding the audio file to the game object and then setting up that and then calling it from there. So now this just directly calls straight from a prefabbed audio manager that's built into the scene. I then spent some time adding this little checkbox to the options menu and creating a player preference item, which is able to make sure the sound is muted and controlled in every scene, just like this. So that's all I have for this week. If you're enjoying this, please let me know in the comments below. I'd really love to get in touch with some of you and communicate and get feedback and all of that. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing so you can keep up to date with the future videos. You can also follow my Twitter account if you want to keep up to date with anything I'm working on with the game as well. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.